Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, October the 29th. I'm Gary Stevens. And we have on the other side of our Zoom connection, the Reverend Bryan Berghoef. He is running for the U.S. House for the 2nd District of Michigan as a Democrat, challenging 5-term incumbent Republican Bill Huizenga. He's on the other side of our Zoom connection. Bryan, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary. Great to be with you.
Glad you are with us. And if you listeners wish to have a question for Bryan, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Bryan, since last we chatted, you had a couple of discussions, virtual debates with Representative Huizenga. He felt it went well and said that it was definitely showing the differences between yourself and himself, showing the stark differences between the two. Did you get the feeling that it was definitely okay? This is what he represents. This is what you represented. It was a good exchange of ideas?
I do, and I'm grateful we had that opportunity. I think I feel it went well also, and I think voters were given a real glimpse at where the candidates are coming on the issues. I think we've seen again that we're in a really difficult moment in this country, and one of the two candidates wants us to really listen to the science, get out in front of this pandemic, which we know cases are rising across the district right here in West Michigan, and we need real leadership right now.
I always sort of chuckle when, being in the media, we get press releases from both the Democrats and the Republicans after like the presidential debates. Trump wins the debate this way, or Biden won the debate that way. To me, and get your thoughts on this, Bryan, a winning debate is when you are able to see and get the straight focus on what each candidate stands for so that one can make a learned decision when they cast their ballots. To me, that's a winning debate more than this person won or that person won.
I agree 100%. I think, as you said, the real winner is the constituents because they get to hear for themselves what the candidates are standing on and plan to represent. And I did find it funny that Bill Huizenga, as soon as the debate ended, posted a graphic to social media declaring himself the winner. I believe it's up to the constituents to decide who they feel did the best and represented things that they align with. And in fact, if you watched the feed on the Grand Haven Tribune and saw reaction from those tuning in, it's pretty hard to imagine that most listening thought the congressman won.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with Congressional candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Hello, Reverend Berghoef. I would like to know your reaction to your fellow Democrats when they took on Amy Coney Barrett and ridiculed and poked fun of her religious faith. We all heard Dianne Feinstein's open mic when she openly did it. What is your reaction?
Thanks for that question. I don't think belittling someone's faith is appropriate, and so I agree that that was regrettable. However, it's worth noting that I do agree with the Democrats who believe that the American people should have had their voices heard in this process, and it should have been delayed until after the election. And that's a perspective shared by the majority, not only of Democrats, but of Republicans across the country. And in fact, it's the exact same thing Mitch McConnell, Amy Coney Barrett herself, and President Trump said in 2016 when the tables were turned. And so to me, the hypocrisy in pushing this forward in record time and not allowing the American people's voices to be heard is quite evident.
Okay, but you'll have to agree, 2016 was entirely different than 2020. In 2016, Obama was with a Senate that was controlled by the Republicans, so he didn't have a chance of getting his appointee through, whereas now it was an entirely different story.
That's true, but I think that's beside the point, because the exact thing Mitch McConnell was hinting at is that it's inappropriate to move forward on hearings for a Supreme Court nominee that close, quote, that close to an election, even though it was much earlier in the election year, regardless of the power in the Senate.
Well, that is true, but I still don't agree with that. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Thank you. 395-1450, 395-1450. Do you have to sometimes, and I see it with the Republicans having to sort of say, yeah, Mr. Trump said this, but I believe that. You have to sort of do that sometimes as well, because you might not agree with some of the things that the Democratic leadership is doing, especially in the House, which you might be a member of after Tuesday, and you're sort of saying, yeah, I disagree with the leadership, but yet, that's the leadership and it's not me.
For sure. And I think the voters are ready for representation that's willing to be honest and independent and speak the truth, even if it's in opposition to one's own party. And I've proven I'm certainly willing and able to do that. And I'm not sure that's been the case with Representative Huizenga. Donald Trump has set the bar for falsehoods, lies, and misinformation. And the inability of our congressman to stand up to that and speak truth has been very disappointing to me, and I know to many of our voters as well.
395-1450, 395-1450. Let me ask you this then. Some might say, well, a candidate, and I'm not going to say Representative Huizenga or anybody, a candidate who goes against the leader of his party stands a chance of not getting that support from the party, and in fact could possibly see some challenges within the party when they try to go for a re-election and stuff like that. I think I know where I'm going with this with you, because you're sort of saying, hey, I'm not getting any support from the national or state party anyway, so if I disagree with them, it's not as if they're going to bring anybody else in there to try to challenge me.
You're exactly right. And we actually have a great local example of this over in the 3rd District with Representative Justin Amash, who was very vocal in his disagreements plural with this president. And we saw the party turned on him, the president turned on him, and he in fact changed his affiliation from Republican to independent. And while he could have run for his seat again as an independent, he chose not to. But I think the voters find that really refreshing when someone is willing to speak the truth and stand against their party, even though it may have political consequences for them and for their own career. And I am certainly willing to do this. I'm not running for this seat because I believe, I deserve to be there or need to be there. I'm doing it because I want to represent the voices of the constituents.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Thank you. I have a question, and it's about 4 years ago. I was watching the Democrat Party and on TV, and I saw them vote to remove God from their platform. The voting members on the floor cheered and jeered as if they were crucifying Jesus Christ all over again. I was appalled and thought my Democrat friends should see this as a game changer. My question is, are you aware of the major change to your Democrat platform? And how do you feel about this?
I don't think the Democrats have tried to remove God from anything. I don't think you can remove God from anything. I don't think that's even a possibility. I think what Democrats have tried to do is make sure that they are representing and lifting up the voices of every American, no matter what their religion is, whether Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, or atheist. And I think that's the correct approach to make in a representative pluralistic democracy founded on the separation of church and faith. And I would also note that there are many Democrats like me who are Democrats not in spite of our faith, but because of our faith and because of our deep biblical values, such as welcoming the stranger, caring for the poor, and welcoming the least of these, caring for the least of these. And so I'm happy to be running for Congress as a Democrat because I'm a Christian.
Okay, appreciate the call. Thank you. 395-1450, 395-1450. This is not a congressional question, but it's going to first of all, I do have another caller, and then then if I have chance before the break, we'll get to that. Good morning. You're on the line with congressional candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Good morning. Talking about the the parties voting for individuals, or people voting for individuals rather than parties. I guess I wish that was true. You see no indication of that. People are still going to vote for the party rather than the individual. And one of the reasons I think so many people are having such a difficult time with our president, he's a businessman. Thinks like a businessman, acts like a businessman, not like a politician. And we really do need more of that, because face it, politics, that he's running a country, is a business, and you best be thinking like a businessman, making the critical decisions. Don't push him down the road. Don't run the country like a committee. You have to make individual decisions, and most politicians don't want to do that because that puts them on the hot seat.
All right, appreciate the call, Bryan.
Well, I don't think claiming that our president is a businessman is necessarily an accolade. He's declared bankruptcy more times than we can count. We know that he is in debt, owes at least $400 million that he owes in liabilities. And in fact, Forbes recently had a story noting it might be close to $1 billion that our president is in debt. And he's slated to be the first president in modern history to leave office with less jobs than when he came in. And so I think he's run this country, just like his businesses, into the ground. And it's time for new leadership and people who are ready to put Americans and America first and get a hold of this pandemic and move our economy forward. And this president's proved simply incapable of that.
395-1450, 395-1450. I'm going to ask you a question as a pastor, which you are. And it's not in Michigan. Michigan has been pretty good about making sure that should congregations get together and worship, they can do so as long as they do the proper protocols. But we are seeing some other states that this has become more of a restrictive situation. And we're seeing in one high-profile California case where the state is saying, no, you cannot have indoor services. And the church is saying, no, we follow God. How tough is it to try to stay biblical on having corporate worship and yet trying to stay safe, especially if the state says, hey, we can't do this because it's not safe to do so?
Yeah, that's a good question, Gary. It is difficult, to be sure. And, I think it's important for us to remember that, those of us who claim to be Christians know that one of our greatest commands is to love our neighbor as ourself. And so when the scientists and the medical community note that it's not safe to gather in person, we ought to be leading the way to say, okay, then because we care for our neighbors and our wider community, are going to do everything we can to keep everyone safe. And if that means we need to worship online for a time, we're going to do that. And that's exactly what my congregation has done here in Holland. We continue to meet online weekly, and thanks to current technologies, we can do that. And then we also have opportunities for people to gather together in person, outdoors during the week in a safe fashion. But no one should look at it as persecution or anything of the sort, because we continue to have freedom to worship. It just may be in a different form for this time.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Yes, this is for the gentleman sitting there with you. The gentleman that just called about, that's what we need, a businessman. I agree with him. I agree we need a businessman. And we just got to remember one thing. If President Trump has done bankruptcy, who hasn't done bankruptcy? And I would rather have a president that done bankruptcy rather than have a vice president that sold secrets and sold other things to different countries that have been trying to hurt our country. So from having a guy done bankruptcy, I'd take him over a crooked dealer like the Bidens for what they've been doing.
All right. Appreciate the call. Thank you. 395-1450. Again, we talk about the situation and we just discussed it a few moments ago. Sometimes you have to sort of hold your nose a little bit about some of the things going on within the party that you are representing.
Yeah, true enough, and unfortunately we've heard from this administration, from Mark Meadows, that we can't control the pandemic. COVID is here forever, so get used to it. And that's really an unfortunate path to take because we know herd immunity is not a viable strategy. And I think it's not hard to see that Republicans have failed on this issue and they're trying to convince us that it was never possible to do anything. But we know that's not true, and we do know how to reduce the spread. And I think people are ready for leaders who will take this thing seriously, listen to the science, and move our country forward safely.
Bryan, I'm going to pose a question I posed to judicial candidate Juanita Bocanegra yesterday when we chatted with her, and I'll pose it to you. Over the past few months, as a candidate, what have you learned the most about maybe the candidacy and maybe to a certain extent about yourself heading into November 3rd?
Well, it's hard running for office. I've certainly learned that. It's a ton of work and a real challenge. But one of the beautiful things is I get to meet and get to know so many incredible people all across West Michigan. And so I think that's been one of the greatest privileges of this whole experience for me, is getting to know folks from Ludington, Pentwater, Kentwood, Granville, Spring Lake, Muskegon, Newaygo, Baldwin, Holland, and Zeeland, and everywhere in between, and get to understand, what's important to them, what matters to their neighborhoods, their communities, their industries, small businesses, and school districts. And, there's a lot that goes into representing all of those diverse voices in one district, but it's a real privilege. And I think, folks are ready for representation that takes the time to listen to the constituents. And I might add that, I've come on your show several times now, happy to answer questions from the listeners. I've noticed the congressman never has to answer questions. And it's worth remembering, it's been over 3 years since he's done an in-person town hall, public town hall here in the district where his constituents can ask him questions and he's forced to answer. And I think people want someone who shows up and listens.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Good morning. Yes, he calls himself a Christian there. So I just wondered, is he stand up for pro-life? Is he stand up for traditional marriage? Thank you very much.
Appreciate the call, Bryan.
Well, as a pastor and a Christian, I do believe that all of life is sacred. And so I have advocated for policies that will, in fact, reduce the abortion rate. And that is investing in healthcare, making sure birth control and contraceptives are widely available, among other things. And those are things that are proven to reduce the unintended pregnancy rate, and that reduces the abortion rate. And what doesn't reduce that rate effectively is simply making it illegal. And so I want to move to a world where abortion is unnecessary.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with candidate Bryan Berghoef.
Yeah, I would argue that the Republican Party is actually the party that cares for the least of us. I mean, think about under the Obama years, the number of people that had to go on welfare rapidly increased. The people that needed to go on food stamps rapidly increased. Those numbers have all gone down under the Trump presidency. And I believe the Democrat Party has one issue that they primarily have, and that is abortion. And about 62 million babies have been killed since Roe versus Wade in 1973. And so I'm just amazed that people that say they're Christians can sign up and vote Democrat or claim to be Democrat.
I appreciate the call. Thank you. 395-1450. Bryan, do you want to comment or do you want me to get to the next call?
No, I would just simply say, as I was just noting, abortion rates go down under Democratic presidencies, and they did under Obama, and that rate has actually slightly increased under this current president. It's also worth noting that President Obama came in during an economic downturn and recession. And under his leadership and Joe Biden's leadership, we saw incredible economic gains. And that incredible economy was inherited by Donald Trump, but now we've seen that thing has gone straight south, and people are ready for new leadership.
We won't be able to take any more calls, unfortunately, because we are out of time in this particular segment. Bryan Berghoef, Democratic candidate for the U.S. House. Want to thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town. Wish you and the family well over the next few days ahead of the election, and look forward to chatting with you again soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much. That's Bryan Berghoef on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.